Hello everyone and welcome back to another week's video. In this one I want to talk about something that you guys have asked me in my comments recently, as well as in DMs on Instagram and other places like that. And that is, what is my photography process? Not so much the actual process of going out and taking photos, because I've covered that and you see that pretty much on a weekly basis when I go out and shoot. But it's going to be more about the post photo process. That means going from when it is on my camera to how it ends up on my website, my portfolio, and on Instagram and stuff like that. Because there is a process in between, and a lot of people that don't really do it don't really understand it as much. And that's sort of what this video is about. And I thought to myself when I got asked these things, isn't that just a bit boring? Isn't it just a bit, run of the mill and stuff like that? But then I looked, and roughly the same time I started getting these comments, I saw that a few other YouTuber photographers were doing the same sort of thing. So I assume that's why it's all of a sudden come about as a question that people want answered. So in this one, that's what I'm going to be doing. Hope it helps some of you. And we'll start off by talking about how my process is extremely mobile. So for a lot of people, they use a desktop or a laptop or something like that to do the bulk of their editing work and all of their website uploading and all that sort of stuff. I am purely mobile when it comes to that sort of thing. I use Lightroom on the iPad. I use my iPad for my main workflow, and I am streamlined enough to the point that I don't have a bunch of additional steps that I see a few other people have. And I feel like that just comes with, you know, learning curves, really. You've done it in the past, you learn from your mistakes. And I'm not talking about so much photography, but my 9 to 5 is working in technology and IT. So I have managed different ways of working, streamlining different things, using different things to make my workflow easier to use. And that's definitely helped me in the long run. So, the first thing, I've taken a photo. I've got back from a day of shooting. How do I get it off of my camera into my storage locations? Because I have a couple. And the storage locations are on site and cloud, just two. And that basically has a redundant backup. I have SSDs, remote SSDs, and portable SSDs that just plug in via USB-C and get bulk storage on, and then they'll be labeled once they're full or once they're a certain time period's up. So I might label an SSD 2023 to 2024 or 2024 to 2025, or a project that I was working on. For example, I go away to the Middle East tomorrow at this point that I'm filming this video. So I might write on Egypt 2025, and that will be just an SSD for that. Now, that's purely as a visual representation that they're all in one place. SSDs are a lot more reliable than mechanical hard disks. They don't fail as easy. They still can, which is why I have a backup. And the backup is just a bulk Google Drive storage. It's 2 terabytes, which is more than enough for just photos. And then after I am done with that, they will then get removed and put onto mechanical disk drives that just don't need to be looked at. Because if a mechanical disk isn't moving, they very rarely just die outright. It's more wear and tear on the actual disk that causes them to fail. So if I need an actual archive rather than just bulk storage and cloud storage, then mechanical disks are a lot cheaper than SSDs, but they are mechanical. So they will just get left until I ever need them again. Now, I've only been doing photography since 2020, so I haven't really needed to put anything into a archived archive, if you will. It's all on cloud or on these SSDs. And these SSDs you can buy pretty cheap nowadays. They are just Lexar, little thin portable ones, and they work really, really well. And the reason they're all USB-C is because my iPad is USB-C. So I will go and disconnect the SD cards that I've been using from my camera, and I've got a few of them as well. All of them vary in storage. There's not an inbuilt card reader on an iPad, so I bought a UHC 2 compatible USB-C SD card reader, and it's tiny. It was only on Amazon, it was only a little thing, and it works blindingly well. You just plug it in, and instantly you can see that SD card on your file location on the iPad or wherever you plug it into. As long as there's a USB-C port, you will see it as just an SD card. This is the location that I will then cull all the images that I don't like the look of. A lot of people go through their camera as they're going through the day and delete images that they miss and stuff like that. I don't do that. I'll wait until I get back after a full day of shooting and then go from there and cull any images that I don't like. Some people don't delete any images at all, and there is a reason for that, but I just find that I take far too many shots, and some of them really are terrible. They could just be a misclick of the shutter, if you will. So, not worth keeping, in my opinion. So I will cull all of them directly while I'm working on the SD card. I'll just go flick through them all as raw files and delete the ones that I dislike. After I've done that, I'll then move them from the SD card to an SSD. To do that, I will use a USB-C to C splitter and plug the SD card reader into one of the USB-Cs and the hard drive into another. Again, if you've got multiple USB-Cs, you don't need to have this extra adapter, but because the iPad just uses one as a charging port, you don't really have multiple options for that. So again, a little thing that I bought off of Amazon, has 4 USB-Cs in it, works at 10 gig speeds, so plenty fast enough, and you just plug in and away you go. Transfer all directly from one to the other, so it doesn't take up any direct iPad storage space. And after that's done, I know that's secure on my Lexar SSDs, my portable SSDs. And then I'll also, at the same time, upload that to Google Drive just through the web browser, because as it's plugged in via USB-C, it will recognize the file structure natively on the iPad. So it will go straight into the drive. And the way that I separate that and the way that I do this on the SSDs as well is in a naming convention. So on Google Drive, there's all of the images on there. So it will be labeled by year, first of all. So 2024, 2025, easy as that. And then you go in, and then each trip that I go out will be labeled. So if I was to go out today, for example, it would be London dash and then the shorthand date. If I was to go for a trip like to Cairo, for example, it will be Cairo, March 2025. Simple as that. Inside there will then be 2 folders, raw and edited, and all the raw files get dumped in the raw folder of that trip. And then whenever I come to edit them, all of my edits also go on to these same file structures in the edited folder. That just gives me a nice differentiation of what's edited and what's not, just at a glance, because it's nice and easy that way. It also allows me to then search for the file name, say it's IMG1724, as an example. I can search for that in Google Drive or in a file browser, and it will come up with both the raw and the edited. So it's quick and easy to navigate like that as well. Now it comes to the actual editing part, because I haven't even got to that yet. Again, all through the iPad, so I can download the ones that I need to, or plug in the SSD and import them like that. Or if the files are still on the SD card, then I can plug the SD card in directly, and then as an import option, you can import all of the SD card files straight into Lightroom. So that's usually the option that I go for, because I cull directly from the SD card rather than on the PC itself. That's the best way I can describe it, really. Now I'll then go through each image and edit them. Now every editing process is different. I've got videos on the channel showing my process for editing on various files. You can look at that for a more detailed look, but I will just go through, make the edits that I need, and then save them again via the SSD, the portable SSD that will go into the iPad, or stay connected via that dongle adapter that can have multiple USB-Cs at once, and it will just go straight into that edited folder that I talked about earlier. Again, giving that differentiation on what's raw and what's edited. And then the same will go into Google Drive, and that will be the main bulk of the process. From here, I will then upload them to 3 different locations. The first is Instagram. I have a schedule for that. So every 3 or 4 days, we'll get a picture uploaded. And then I've got We Are 8, which is a new social media platform, which you can follow me with a link in the description. We have been uploading quite frequently to that to just make the most of it. And that will be almost daily. The YouTube videos will be once a week. And on my website, if it's a new location that I visited, for example, a trip to Cairo as a prime example, it will get its own dedicated folder. And all the images that I feel are good enough to go on a website as sort of like eyes on of my work will go in there. And then anything that I see as exceptional, if any, from that trip, because it's not always the case, will go into the portfolio folder on my website as well. That's just a case of uploading to Squarespace's gallery and picking it from the gallery options there. So that is really straightforward in that regard. But the fact that it all happens on an iPad means that I can be as mobile as possible. If I'm away for a while, or if I'm just going about into different locations, or if I'm staying in a hotel, I don't need to take a full workflow set up with me. I don't need a massive Apple Studio display because the iPad has really good color accurate screen. And, you know, that's good for me. It's nice and lightweight. I can edit from wherever I am, a coffee shop, a hotel room, no matter where I am, I can edit and upload directly from there. All it is from the moment that I get it off my camera is an SD card into a small SD card reader, which I'm not kidding you is about that big, to then go into a hard drive, which again is the SSD is about that big, and then that gets uploaded to cloud storage. My process could fit on a tiny coffee table and still have room for a couple of my zines, which are still in stock if you do wish to buy them. It's a super simple process. I understand some people have NAS systems for bulk storage. Again, it's overkill, but if you want to set it up, they're really good to set up, especially in a RAID format, which means if you lose a hard drive based on corruption because mechanical disks do fail, you can hot swap one out and all of your data stays intact. Depending on the RAID configuration you do, you can lose more than one drive if you wanted to. But for me, it's overkill. I've got cloud storage, which I rely on being readily available to me, and I can access it from anywhere. And I've got my SSDs, which are kept on site in location just for projects that I'm working on. And I do have a fair few SSDs because it's nice to just see the different projects and the different time periods rather than just having to sift through all of them to find that one image. Because if I know that I took an image in 2023, I know to look on the SSD that says 2023 or in the folder on Google Drive that says 2023. It makes it a lot more easier than just going through a big NAS or multiple different drives that are not labeled. You can label folders with inside anything, but for me, I find having physical labels on them easier at a glance to just see what I need and where it is. That's pretty much the entire thing. It's mainly that. There's obviously little things that if I want to upload different variations of the same image, I can edit it multiple times and save it under different file names. That's the usual sort of thing. And then when the images come to be put on YouTube videos like these, again, the same sort of thing. Nice and easy to just import it into Final Cut Pro, which again, all the videos are edited on the iPad as well. So just drag and drop straight in there and it's nice and easy. There is no faffing about, and it's so much quicker to just get things edited, uploaded, and done and out of the way. I'll have one main editing session after every trip, which will take a few hours. And then after that, it's just this picture will get uploaded on this date, this picture the next date, and it'll go from there. It's as simple as that. There's no overcomplication, and that's why I like it so much, because there's no extra steps. It's just the bare minimum, just what you need to get by, and I think that works well. Thank you so much for watching this video. If it did in any way find that helpful, leave a like, leave a comment on what your solution is, and let me know if you're looking forward to the travel videos that are coming up on the Middle East, because I sure am. It's about 3 o'clock now, so I'm going to head to bed because I need to get to Heathrow for about 3 in the morning. Good night. I'll speak to you soon. Bye bye.